Yo, 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 everybody. Keith Ferrante here with my amazing parents, Mark and Jane Ferrante, coming to you 2025. We are in, what are we in right now? We are in April. We're in the month of April. Just to track this, for those of you that will be watching this years from now, because you want to hear this conversation. And we are talking about all things related to family. And I have my amazing parents here who have been married for 55, yay, 56 years, as we found out today. Isn't it true? 56 years?
This year.
This year is 56.
Coming up on 56? Ah, there we go.
August 2nd.
August 2nd, 56 years. That's incredible. Who can say that they've been married for 56 years? Like, how did you guys find each other? Like, how did you guys get together 58 years ago or however long it was? How did this thing start?
It started on a evangelism class that my older sister was teaching us at our church. And so one day we were going door to door witnessing. And so my sister paired up people, and Jane and I were the last two that were left. So she paired us up, and that was our first get together was door to door witnessing.
Oh, wow.
That was quite an experience. We were both shy, and I was really shy. We would go to the doors of houses and knock on the door, because we had a kind of a survey that you asked questions and people would answer them. And you get down to the question of, do you want to make Jesus your personal Savior? But when we've come to doors, I hoped most of the time that they wouldn't answer.
Which did happen.
I was scared, shy. But that was our first time together.
That's crazy. Now, a quick question about that. I don't know if you know this. Was your sister trying to set you guys up?
Probably so.
Yeah? Did
She
she ever
probably-
say anything later on?
She probably did. Yeah.
So then you started hanging out a little bit together. What happened?
Well,
Yeah, you tell
our
that.
first date was a group date, and we went to something called Youth for Christ, which Billy Graham started, and it was in San Francisco. And so I remember I got a new dress, and yeah, we went there, and of course we were just with a group the whole night, but that's kind of how it started.
Oh, wow. So then you guys started dating. I can't remember the story. You might jog my memory before, but were you married before you joined the Army, Father, or were you?
Yes, we had been married about 6 months
Okay. So
when I went into the service.
didn't you have a moment where you broke up before you got married? What was that? So this thing almost didn't make it, but what happened? Like, it was something about college, and mom went to college.
Okay, what happened was this.
I think it was twice we broke up.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh, terrible.
We sort of went together for a year and a half to 2 years, and we broke up several times. Not two,
Oh,
several. So the thing was, this would happen. I was at college, and I was getting ready to come home. Oh no, okay. Here's what happened. I came home at Thanksgiving and saw him, but he had just left college, and he was disillusioned about the Lord. And so he said to me, as he's left the house, he said, "I don't even know if I believe in God anymore." And when
Wow.
he said that, and then he just kind of left it, and that was like,
This is a preacher's kid we're talking about
yeah.
here.
And then it was like, we're not together anymore. See ya. So anyway, I went to college, and we didn't really talk or anything from then on until May, because I didn't come home for vacation because I didn't want to
There
see
wasn't
him.
cell phones back then.
Right. So anyway, what happened was, I had prayed a couple of weeks. Every night I would pray about it. And I said, Lord, if you want us to be together, it's going to have to be his idea. So, I mean, let's face it, we've gone all this time. We talked about getting married even in high school because back then people married earlier, I think. So, anyway, we just, so I prayed that. And then he called me and he said, "Do you care if I pick you up from school at the last day?" It was a 5 hour drive. So I said, "Sure." So, anyway, he picked me up. We just picked up where we left off. And when we got in my parents' circle driveway, he said, "Can I just ask you a question?" Now, I had no idea what he was going to say. So I just said, "Sure." And he said, "Do you want to get married?" And I said, "Yes."
Wow,
That is
Father.
how it went.
Well, this is the real question. What was the car you were driving for 5 hours?
No, it was a Plymouth Fury, fire engine red.
Wow.
I mean, it was as red as a fire engine, and it had a rectangle steering wheel, and I had put a knob on it so I could turn it around.
Wow.
Nowadays, you can't do that, but then they allowed you to do that.
That's so fun.
It was a real fast car. I enjoyed it.
You should have
But
known.
let me say something about us getting back together. What I remember is towards the beginning of that year before I picked her up, I think we had started communicating
Oh, a little bit.
with each other by letter.
Yeah, that's true.
And when we did, I remember we had a little tape that we would record something on it. We would record a message on it, and we would send it in with the letter.
I don't remember that much.
So I remember it. I remember everything, all the little things that she would say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she would tell me how she was doing with the Lord, and what she would hope that would happen to us, and that I would continue to serve the Lord, and
Little
I
evangelist.
enjoyed those. Yeah, oh no, it's something about hearing the voice of someone you really like, even though you're not together. We were 1,500 miles apart, but with that and the letters, and
That's when he was at college.
I still have our letters that we wrote back and forth to each
Oh,
other.
wow.
Some from when she was in Bible school and at Bethany College, and some when I was in the service
That's true.
down at Fort Ord. It's where I did my original training for the Army, and we still have those letters, and I get them out every once in a while and read them. They're really inspirational.
So you came home not even knowing if you believed in the Lord. How did you like get through that? Was mom a part of that? How did you like find your way back to the Lord? And would have you married him if he wasn't with the Lord, Mother?
I didn't think I would.
No, I don't think so. She was really very, very committed to the Lord uh, then, as she is now, but in a way that she was concerned that she was putting me before God.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of something she was working through, and I was disillusioned because things that happened at Bible school when I went to Bible school back in Missouri. I was very immature, I'm sure, and things happened there at the Bible school that disappointed me very much, and I had to leave early. Uh, Probably a lot of it was on my end, but I think some of it could have been on the end of the administration as well there.
It had to do with money.
Yeah, and money. So I didn't want to come home. I wanted to go to Ohio,
Oh, wow.
where I grew up. That's what I was just not going to come home at all. But I had an older sister was attending the same college, and she heard that I was asked to have all the money for the college year by Monday morning, and this was Friday. And of course, I couldn't. She heard that and she called home, and my dad was able to contact me, and he says, "You, you're coming home. I've got plane tickets for you, and you're coming home."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Okay, okay, Dad." So I came home, and that's when I was I was really disappointed in how things had gone. And
Yeah.
so I thought, well, I don't know, is God really in my life at all, or what's going on here? It just took some time being at home, going back to church, and then eventually communicating again with Jane that I think changed me.
Wow. You know, just staying on the subject of just even getting married and finding the right one. So that was quite a thing, Mother, where you hadn't seen each other for months, but you decided if it's going to have to be on him, but if he says something, I'll get married to him. So you must have seen something in him that was not going to get in the way of you and the Lord.
Well, when I think back now, maybe we wrote a little bit between that, November thing and then the May when he picked me up. So, of course, like he said, he was going to church. Of course, his dad was a preacher and all that. So, and he was, he wasn't. He was trying to keep on the journey. So anyway, and being said I had prayed, I was a new Christian, but I just prayed and I thought the Lord had answered that prayer because I didn't say a thing about it. And then he said, "You want to get married?" And I said, "Yes."
So almost 56 years later, would you say that was the right decision?
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Oh, yes, indeed. Sure. Yeah.
Did you feel like those first years were critical for you to find the right one, finding each other? Like those were the foundation for the last 56 years. They were the starting point.
You mean when we were first married?
Yeah. Well, when you were first dating, like when you were dating, like to find that this was the right one. Was there anybody else that you thought about during that time?
Well, sure. I was immature, so there was
That means you think
always-
about other people.
there was always there was another gal, and we're still friends with her now.
Oh,
All
yeah.
these years later, they're friends, but she was on the list too.
It's getting worse and worse.
But so I mean, you've been married 56 years, so you sorted through and you kind of honed down that you guys were the ones.
Well, I don't know if we thought so much in terms of that those days.
Yeah.
Like, is this the right one? It was more, are we in love? And I'm sure we just let our emotions dictate a lot of it, And the thing is, it's like, there was a few guys at college that I, was a little bit interested in. But the thing is, when it all came down to it, well, then Pops and I had some history, at least a year or two of really being together. Because, we were together all the time as much as we could be. And when we were teenagers. And so anyway, it just kind of led there. And plus, in those days, let's face it, we had what we would now, I'm going back to this again. We had what we called time at the altar a lot. Every service you went to the altar. In other words, you knelt down by a place that was actually an altar about this height, or your seat, and you really prayed about life. So I'm sure all that sort of foundational thing got us there because we both love the Lord and in our own way, and we were both immature. And I'll just say, our first year or two of marriage was hard. It was very hard. So I just think, trying to put two people together when you have been doing your own thing, it's you may think you know somebody well, but once you're married, and even through the years, you don't. There's a lot you still don't know.
Oh, wow.
We were barely 19 years old
Wow.
when we got married. So
Mhm.
we were young, and I had a lot of growing up to do as
I probably did too.
being immature, and we struggled through. There were times I used to think to myself, if we could make a week without having a fight, I would be so happy.
Wow.
And then it would be if we could make a day or 2 days without having a little fight. They weren't big fights, but no, we'd get my feelings hurt, get offended. Your feelings are always out there. Uh, and it took a long time,
Yeah.
number of years before we finally started meshing, started learning how to communicate with each other and respond. For me, I could be reactionary instead of responding to what was going on, and so I had to learn how to respond more to her needs than mine. Uh, but it took time. Eventually, life goes on, and you learn how to communicate better with each other.
I love that. That's so
Mm.
much wisdom there. What would you say to if you've got grandkids that aren't married yet, or even young people that are trying to find the person to get married to? What kind of advice would you give them
Go for it, Jamie.
Good one.
about finding the right person to marry?
Well, I would definitely say values are everything. So don't just let your feelings run you. Sure, people are, pretty and handsome and all that, and there's attraction. But you know what? That's not going to carry you in the long run. It's, you have to, of course, we're thinking from a Christian standpoint. So you need to be a Christian. You both do, not just in name, but you both really need to be pursuing the Lord, and then you need to be able to. It's good if you have some common interests, and you because they say sometimes after you marry, the things that attracted you start bugging you then. Like, I don't know, being driven or something, whatever your personality is. And thinking back, just even to our drive over here today, Keith, Brian, your father was driving. And see, we're
Keithy Boo Boo Bryant, if she really wants to be full.
we are opposites pretty much. So, for instance, I'm pretty laid back, and he wants to get it done, and so we've had to deal with that in life, let alone lately in driving down here. So those things in life.
Yeah, that's good. Pops?
Hmm. Um, what should you look for when you're seeking a
Yeah.
companion for your life?
Yeah.
What Mother says is true. Being a believer is, if both of you are believers, is going to help a whole lot, because even being Christians doesn't mean everything is going to be perfect. You still have to have adjustments. You have to like each other as well as
That's
love each other.
big.
You need to like each other, like being with each other, like hanging out, treating each other with surprises, and being respectful to each other, uh, just holding each other up in esteem, not putting down. Never put your spouse down with negative words to hurt or offend. I've tried never to do that. Um, Whatever your speech is, you can really offend and hurt each other, and that can cause communication gaps that are hard to overcome for a while. So it's just learning how to grow together, grow spiritually together, grow in just your relationship and walk with each other. Continue to grow together. Don't let one get ahead of the other. A lot of times it's the wife getting ahead of the husband when it comes to spiritual things. But really, we should grow together, each of us striving together to serve the Lord, to know Him, to love Him, and just do things like that together. Unity is needed.
Unity is big, but when I hear that, I'm like, words. Words are so important all through married life. Like if you're trying to get it started, you know, everything. Words, 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 words. Because you know, some of the things we say to each other, it's out there. You can't take it back. Now I get you know, you have to live a life of forgiveness if you're going to be in a relationship.
Right.
But when we were first married, as I said, I was a new Christian, and so I knew certain things that he didn't like, certain words, and it wasn't necessarily words I would normally even say, but once in a while I'd, you know, some people call it, you just give them the bomb. In other words, whatever that thing was, you would say, and because you wanted him to know that, you know, da-da-da. Okay. And on that line, let me just say, right. And okay, let me just say along that line, I think I kind of learned this from David Wilkerson. I read a book on marriage one time of him and his wife. He said when they were young and so on, they had the bomb. See, that's where I got that. And he said, and her bomb was he would say to her, because she was very into staying fit and everything. So he would say to her, well, at least I'm not fat. If he would say that if they're in an argument and he just wants to really put her down. And here's what she'd say to him: at least I'm not a phony evangelist. So we all have a bomb. But I mean, that was a little bit off the subject. But
No,
anyway.
that was deep.
Well, those are
and
words
even okay, and that
hurt.
can really hurt. And like for instance, you know, now we know what the other person doesn't like, and you know, I am more of the talker than him, so I have to, because once in a while I'll think I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna say this about that, but then you know what comes to my mind? Kindness. It comes to my mind, kindness, and then I will try to just keep it in. Yeah, you need
Philippians 4:8.
it could be. And the thing is, you want to say to yourself as you go on the journey, you say, is this going to build him up? That's really the question. Is this going to build him up? And if it doesn't, then you don't, what are you trying to tear him down for? It's about building as you get into it. When you're when you're first married, I'd say in some ways it's still all about you, because I mean, let's face it, that's all you've known. Then as the years go on, you hope things change.
It's more about us.
That's fine.
Us, we.
Wow, what a great conversation. We've just started, and we're gonna wrap this one up. But we're just in the beginnings of marriage and how to find the right person and how to start off a good marriage and build good foundations. And haven't you guys enjoyed this conversation with my amazing parents? If you've liked it, subscribe. Love you to share with other people and comment below any questions you might have. I've noticed a few questions are coming in, and those we will be thinking about those and using them at the right time. But thanks so much for joining us today, and we will hope to have you part of this again soon.